You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning, and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 127 of the Daily Beaver here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Thursday, May 25th, 2023, and it will be a gorgeous, as you can tell by the sun coming through the window on my face, late spring day here at the Beaver Lodge with temperatures hitting 15, perfect for tennis, which I did not get to play yesterday because soon after finishing the show, we got rain. Didn't expect it, but there it came. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, he, Mr. Beaver A, and with me as always is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. Looking super cool today, I must say. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a Thursday morning nibble for you today, kids. But first, let's say hello to Mr. Grizzly and ask how's your mental health today, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Beaver. When I wake up, I'll let you know how I'm feeling. I slept until 6:30. I kept hitting the snooze button, and at 6:30 I rolled out of bed, washed up quickly, poured a coffee, sat down, turned this on. Here we are. I'm not awake.
Well, I'm not fully rested because my beaver sweetie decided that he was going to have trouble sleeping last night and didn't come to bed till 3 a.m, after which he tried to get under the blankets and cover himself, and by covering himself would uncover me, and then covered me and uncovered himself, and then uncovered me and then covered, and did that like 3 times, and woke me up and was like, "What are you doing?" So I had a little bear growl last night somewhere around 3 a.m. Pulled the blanket over myself, but at 5 I was up and was just like, oh God, had my sleep interrupted 3 times.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah. And I do not know what's going on in the universe, but I'm living under some bad juju the last 3 or 4 weeks. I keep on misplacing and losing stuff left, right, and center. I have lost at least 5 or 6, 7 things that I just cannot find anymore, all in the last 2 weeks. And a lot of them seem to be, for some things falling out of my pocket when I'm riding my bike, which has never happened to me in my entire existence in 50 years, but it's happened to me twice this month.
That's why when you're cycling, you need to have shorts or pants that have zippered pockets.
It seems so, but I've never had pants with zippered pockets before this year. Never lost anything. Twice in 1 month.
Yeah, well,
So
congratulations. Welcome to your 50s.
yeah, really. And the number of times over the last 3 weeks that I've put my cell phone down somewhere and I just hasn't been distracted and just don't remember where, and I have to like go to like the internet and like make my cell phone ring. That's just, yeah, I'm not as sharp and focused as I normally am, and it's a little disturbing actually. Frustrating.
Terrible case of craft disease.
Craft disease.
Can't remember a friggin' thing.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I'm hoping that what I lost yesterday wasn't while I was riding my bike, but while I was at the theater taking clothes off and putting clothes on, because we were doing wardrobe fittings yesterday, and maybe it just fell on the floor. But
I'm gonna put a little insight into this and say this clumsiness, this forgetfulness of yours I don't think that's really that new. I mean, the last time we did a pubcast, you dropped a pile of cash out of your pocket onto the floor under the table.
Yeah, it just fell right out of my wallet as I went to pay my bill.
When we did that work as extras, you left wearing the wrong shoes.
Yep.
Like, I don't think this is that new, my friend.
No, it's not new. It's a common thing. I have to not be distracted when I'm leaving.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm always distracted when I'm leaving because I live with the world's most pleasant distraction.
Okay.
But yeah, but lack of sleep, it's been a constant thing. Lack of sleep. Whenever I get into a bout where I have lack of sleep, I keep forgetting things, or like falling asleep on trains and missing my stop. Like the number of times I've had insomnia and like this, I'm coming from Ottawa to Kingston and end up waking up in Belleville. Because like nobody passes by, taps you on the shoulder, say, by the way, this is your stop. We put this little thing on top of your thing that says, this little sticker says that you're getting off at Kingston, but we didn't like pass by and tap you on the shoulder and say, you might want to get off now. So
I think their take on that is, we're not your babysitter. You're an adult.
No, I get that. But like, come on, man. Anyway, so yeah, I've been going through a couple of rough days. But hey, that doesn't matter because, like I said, nobody got sick, nobody went hungry, nobody died. So ultimately, just frustrating. All right, Kits, today we continue with part 2 of our look into the report of the Special Rapporteur. We have some additional clips for you based on what David Johnston said in the report and some of the comments that were made as a result. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to go through all of them. All right. I'm trying to think maybe I'll do a selection because I do have a lot of them, but there's a lot going on.
I do have this clip here from the PM yesterday and his sort of retort.
Yeah,
it's a short clip. We'll just show this.
You want to open with that?
We can. We don't have to. It's just I have the clip. That's all. It was just
okay. Let's keep it locked and loaded. All right, because I'd like to get through what Mr. Johnston had to say before we get to the politicians' reactions.
Okay.
All right. So where we left off yesterday, Johnston had made the case about debunking all the allegations with regard to conflict, with regard to Prime Minister's family, because he was more a friend of his father's, not actually the son, and listed, everything, his conclusions and all of that. Where we are now is the questions from the journalists. And David Aiken had a good round with David Johnston yesterday. And I'm just going to cue this up for you right now. And this one's going to last a couple of minutes because he did a follow-up, and both of them are actually the question and the follow-up are quite good. So I'm going to leave it there for you. All right, Mr. Grizzly, it's set up. I'm going to share it with you, and here we go.
Second here. And there we go.
All right.
David Aiken Global. Good afternoon. One of your conclusions suggests that there were no the Prime Minister, you could find no evidence that they failed to act. But as I read your report, you're really referring to the 6, 8 instances of leaks. And in fact, the case, I'll put it to you, could be made that the Prime Minister, key ministers, senior leadership did fail to act to address the systemic failings in information management that you address, going back to multiple NSICOP reports, Judd reports, that was a failure by the political class, not the bureaucrats, not the system. They failed to manage the information better.
Let me say two things in response to your question. Number one, in looking at failures of appropriate action on foreign interference, we were tasked with the job of determining whether there was any negligence or conscious avoiding of dealing with those issues for some political reason. And we went through 9 different cases, the most perhaps prominent ones that is reported. And we did not find any evidence of that kind of negligence or acting in a partisan way. What we did find, your second point, is that we have a system that's not working effectively, not working as it should. And I don't think there's any surprise in that, as we've seen foreign influence growing quite dramatically. Focus on Russia in 2016 and look at what's happened in the United States with that. And then towards 2018, especially in the case of the 2 Michaels and so on, no Chinese interference. The two are very different. Russian is much more focused on destroying democratic institutions. Chinese interference is much more long-term, much more pervasive, and much more sophisticated in using disinformation and other things to protect what China regards as its special areas of protection, so-called private prisons.
Okay, kids, I'm not sure why the volume is consistently dropping throughout all of this, so I'm sorry. All right. So I guess we won't be able to do clips today. All right, so I don't have a show. So go ahead, Mr. Grizzly. I guess we'll go with the Trudeau clip.
And Pierre Poilievre is choosing to sit behind a veil of ignorance instead. He doesn't want the facts to get in the way of a good political argument or a personal attack. I think Canadians have to ask themselves the question, is that a serious leader? Is that a serious way to handle something as important as foreign countries trying to mess with our democracy, with our businesses, with our diaspora communities? On an issue like this, we have to be grounded in facts. That's what this government is doing. That's what David Johnston has done. That's what Pierre Poilievre refuses to do.
That's pretty much in your face saying, look, Pierre Poilievre just, Althea Raj wrote a column about it in the Toronto Star. She says, the reason Poilievre refuses to get access to top security information, he doesn't want to know what happened. He wants to be free to mischaracterize it. And this is what he's been doing. He refuses to be briefed. He's 4 times, he was asked to talk to David Johnston's office regarding this matter. Not once. He refused to meet with him. He flat out, first he lied and said he was busy. Then he came out, his office lied and said he was busy. Then he came out and said, no, I just refused to meet with him. This man shouldn't be in charge of a hot dog cart. He's a stochastic terrorist. We've said it time and time again. And he wants nothing to do with actual leadership. And instead, he just wants to rage farm. And he's good at rage farming. But what I do not understand, what I fail to grasp, is why he's allowed to continue to do this day after day after day. And the only people who ever ask him why are other politicians. Why is the mainstream media not holding his feet to the fire. I mean, he was asked the simple question the other day, and his response was, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to. He never provided an answer. He did nothing. We're in a very strange place right now.
Yeah, I saw another presser with him where somebody asked,
Are we live still? I don't know what happened. I think we've lost Mr. Beaver. I wasn't sure if it was me or him for a second there. We'll get him back in a sec. He's just having some technology issues this morning, as sometimes that's simply how it goes. I don't know, man. We're in a very, like I said, we're in a very, very strange place right now, and I don't know. I don't know if we're going to pull through this the way we should, as a country that wants to do better, wants to be better, wants to actually get to the truth and the heart of the matter. It's just not what's happening. I don't understand. Mr. Beaver's got computer issues, so I will just put a bow on things here this morning and wrap it up shortly. This will be a very brief program this morning because I got to get into the office and I've lost my colleague because his computer seems to have crashed on him. This is what happens sometimes with technology, as we know. Nothing is permanent. Nothing works out the way we always want it to. Let's put it that way. So something else that I find very troubling is how David Johnston was appointed Governor General by Stephen Harper, and all of a sudden he's now no longer reliable. Pierre Poilievre refuses to get the clearance required to see the specific files we're discussing. Now, he has clearance, otherwise he couldn't be on the Hill. But you need additional clearance to view certain documents, and he's refusing to get it. Like, what is this all about? Is it just so he can misinform the public and rage farm over it, so he can grift the uninformed individuals in this country, that he will get fired up and, like I said, rage farmed, so he can grift some money out of them? Because I don't know what the hell is going on. It's mind-boggling to me that this is allowed to continue. He doesn't get to answer for it because he refuses to answer a bloody question. This is not a leader of a nation. This is a dictator, is what this is. Plain and simple. He's a dictator. He's going to tell you exactly what he wants to tell you. He refuses to answer questions by saying, I will answer the question the way I want to. Like a fucking frat boy. Like a spoiled elitist child. I don't want to, so I'm going to do this instead. He's such a little shit of a human being. A shit gibbon. It's just... You shake your head daily about it and you don't know what to say anymore. And here's something else I've noticed about the current crop of conservatives. The Reform Party in another name. Have you noticed, just now that when I tell you this, you might see this, you might go out and seek it out and pay attention. Not a single member of that party, not a one, has said the word China in regards to all of this. At least I've not seen it yet. They refer to this inquiry as Beijing's interference, not China. They won't say China because they handcuffed us to China for 31 years with the FIPA deal that they signed in secret. Remember that? Do you remember that, Mr. Poilievre? Do you remember that at all? Because it happened. You did it. You were there. You helped create this deal. You signed it. I just don't. They refuse to say the word China, but they're always pointing their finger at Beijing. And I think it's because of the FIPA deal. And maybe because, when they say China, all of a sudden the China bots will attack them. I don't know what's going on there. You could be right about this, Linda, that he doesn't want the clearance to find something that he's got hidden in his background somewhere. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Mr. Beaver, you're back, but looks like you're having computer issues this morning, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
That happens. It happens to all of us.
I'm sorry.
On a
kids,
mo-
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just saying it happens to all of us. Computer issues happen. It's just technology. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I know, but I put 5 hours of work into the show, so
Well, we can do it tomorrow. It happens. You got to let it go. You got to go with the flow. We'll ride the canoe. We'll get in the canoe and ride the river to where it takes us. And tomorrow we can steer the whole thing with a motor on the back. Although I've never seen a motor on a canoe. Have you ever seen a motor on a canoe? Maybe a trolling motor, a small little 2 horsepower trolling motor. I haven't been fishing in a long time. Can you tell? There are people who fish off the Bank Street Bridge in the Rideau Canal because you can get some massive carp out of the canal. I wouldn't do anything that came out of the canal because that water is not clean. Not clean at all. As I know you know, Mr. Beaver, you've seen the canal.
Indeed.
It is not. It's not clean, but it looks pretty, and it's nice to paddle a canoe or a kayak down in the summertime. You can get motors for flat-back canoes. Okay, see, there we go. Thank you, Christian. I appreciate that. Like I said, I haven't been in a canoe in a long time, and I don't remember. There you go, Mr. Beaver. Hugs for Snuggles from Elaine. You gotta do what Taylor Swift does and shake it off. I got another video clip here, and this is an interesting clip, and it's with I think it's with Vashi. Is it Vashi? Yeah, I think that's Vashi. I'll put this on the screen here, and well, let's just watch this. It's interesting. And where is the clip? There it is. Okay, I've got it. Here we go. Let's just roll this.
We'll only know what actually occurred, and Canadians will only be able to have confidence in our elections and in our democracy if there is a transparent and open process. That is not what they were given when the Prime Minister appointed someone who he describes as a close friend and who sat as a board member on the foundation that shares his family name, who in seeking out, Mr. Johnston, in seeking out if he was in a conflict, asked another member of the Trudeau Foundation if he was in a conflict of interest.
A former Supreme Court justice, to be fair.
There's...
Like I said, Chuck Straw, Bill Davis, Peter Lougheed, are their reputations impugned too because they sat there?
None of them have been asked to investigate foreign interference after the Trudeau Foundation was used as a vehicle by Beijing to target the Prime Minister in an influence operation. It shows incredibly poor judgment on behalf of the Prime Minister, and this is exactly why we need an open, public, transparent inquiry, and that's what we're going to continue to call for, because that's what Parliament voted on and passed, and it's incumbent on the Prime Minister to respect our democratic institutions that he claims he's trying to protect. That's certainly what we're trying to do.
Okay, there's so much bullshit there.
Yeah.
First of all, okay, number one, how are they speaking with such certainty? The clip before that for him, it's a cover-up, it's a cover-up. How do they know it's a cover-up? They won't even expose themselves into the information at all. The leader won't expose himself to the information. So are they speaking with such certainty about what the information says? And we still don't know because absolutely nobody in the media world is taking the time to ask the question of the 2 MPs that actually sit on the NSICOP, the 2 Conservative MPs. What do you do with the information that you get at NSICOP? How do you bring this to the cabinet? How do you bring this to the caucus table? Not the cabinet table because they're not the government. What do you share with the leader? What do you share with the members? What do you share with your caucus? How are they speaking with such certainty? There's only two people in the whole party that have seen the information. We don't know what they do with it. And no journalist will ask the obvious question, what did you do with the information that you received so far?
Of course not, because then that would be, not painting the picture that the foreign-owned media, the right-wing, extreme, conservative, evangelical, Christian hedge fund, Chatham Asset Management that owns 66.6%, 666 of the National Post, Post media, it won't paint the picture they want to paint for you if they ask those questions.
Mm-hmm. So they're talking with certainty. They don't know what they're talking about. They're proud to know what they're not talking about. They lied to us first about reason for which Poilievre would not meet with them. Then they just outright bragged that, well, we're just not going to be helpful. Turns out they were invited 4 times, and now they're invited again.
And still refuse.
This is not statesmanship.
No, it's not.
It's not statesmanship, and this is disqualifying. It should be disqualifying, and I do not know why this is not the narrative.
This is barely elementary school debate club.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And finally, at least, there's another media outlet, which I had not heard of before until yesterday, called the Daily Scrum News, which is asking the question that we have been asking, Mr. Grizzly. Pierre Poilievre's reluctance to be vetted to receive NSICOP top secret clearance raises red flags.
I'm not familiar with this organization.
Neither am I. But this is the question that we have been asking. When you have the leader of an opposition, a man who aspires to be prime minister, who's openly declaring before cameras and on microphones that he is the type of person who does not want to know and will not take steps to know and won't lift a finger to be helpful. Isn't that like a big bat signal to every government around the world who wants to exercise influence that, hey, I'm taking applications and accepting offers?
Yeah.
When are we going to start talking about him as being a national security risk? When? I just don't. Oh, man. And, Althea Raj had a great comment on this. She was on the national at issue. I'm sorry, there's a whole bunch of sounds going on because, of course, my computer is going completely
sideways.
Yeah, sideways. So I'm sorry, everything for people listening at home and all these sounds popping up. For some reason, normally I can control these, but today I can't. Yeah, we had and of course, all the data of all the notes that I took this morning all disappeared too when the computer crashed.
Yeah, it happens.
Like I said at the beginning of
the show,
you got to roll
with the punches.
I am having that juju. I'm having that weird juju. Okay, here it is. I believe it is. I'm sorry if I don't have the timestamp exactly right to start at a good spot, but I think this might be it right here. All right, Mr. Grizzly, and I'm going strictly from memory because the notes have vanished. But I think this is it.
You want to blow that up, please?
Well, okay, on the political stuff, what happens is the Conservatives make a lot more money than
Of course it's at triple speed.
Like, what is
Everything is going wrong. All right, let's try this one. Let's try this the 5th time.
The revelations come out.
Well, okay, on the political stuff, what happens is the Conservatives make a lot more money fundraising off of this. But on the other hand, I think, Mr. Poilievre today had a press conference and he talked about how he does not want to be sworn in and he does not want to see the evidence on which David Johnston has based himself because that is a trap and that would silence him. Well, if he's the prime minister, he has to see this information and he still will not be able to talk about it. So this argument makes no sense to me. And I feel like on the one hand, there is a message there that resonates with the greater public. And on the other hand, there's an uber partisan message that really makes no sense. But that being said, if I was a Conservative, I would be popping the champagne because this is a day to celebrate. It could not have been better than that. This could not have been better than they anticipated.
Okay.
There you go.
It's all about his rage farming so he can grift you for more money.
That's really, really all it is about. Thus lending more confidence to the thing that we keep on saying. They don't really care if they win or lose.
Nope.
So long as they can raise money off it, and if they win, well, bonus, they get the purse strings. But they're not...
They don't care.
They just don't care. They just don't care, like, whatsoever. Anything at all.
They just care about two things. Remember, money and power. Oh, three. Money, power, and themselves. That's it. Raise money, get money, gain power to get more money, and they will govern. I use that word loosely because let's face it. Look, if Skippy ever gets in power, we'll have worse than Harper, because Harper was the king of incrementalism. Skippy isn't. Skippy will destroy this nation. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. He is part of the stochastic terrorist crew that will rage. They had their, what was it, the hotline they wanted to establish for barbaric practices. That is blatant, rampant racism. And I didn't make mention of any particular race in there, but we all know why they put that up. We all know. And it's real simple because it boils right down to the fact that the Christo-fascist, extreme, evangelical, Christian, right-wing members of society who have been incrementally trying to push their message across. It goes back to them getting their victory over Roe v. Wade in the U.S. They're doing the same thing here. There's a book written about it by Marcy McDonald that talks about all of this. And that book that I mentioned yesterday and on the Twitter was written or released in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more info today about it. It's really disturbing.
Indeed. I have another clip from from the At Issue.
Okay.
And it pertains to a lot of people making, the case that people are making that a public inquiry should be held, and that David Johnston is basically saying, just trust me, which is the claim, for example, of Andrew Coyne and such.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll go with that, Mr. Grizzly, if you will. This will be a couple of minutes here.
Mollify any of the government's critics and not likely to engender a lot of public trust in the process.
It's like if Mr. Johnston seeks to operate in this sphere that is free of partisanship, and he doesn't realize that he's actually operating in a system that is fueled by partisanship, the easy answer would have been a public inquiry. It is what the opposition wants. It actually would have been better for the government. They get to turn a new page with a new commissioner, put this controversy behind them, start afresh. And if what David Johnston says in his report, that there's actually no wrongdoing, that the government did not fail to act based on political partisan reasons, then why wouldn't they themselves call a public inquiry? I think that is also part of the equation today. I think, seeing where Mr. Johnston is coming from and kind of, thinking back to his past writings, I'm not entirely surprised he went this way, but I am surprised the government decided to accept it.
Well, it's funny because he actually says a public inquiry would have been the easy answer, but not the right one, and would not, in fact, have led to more public trust. Quite the opposite of what you're all saying, Chantal.
Okay, I was never, and I still am not, a public inquiry convert, but going through the motions still matters. Mm-hmm. And what this does is not going through the motions. Mm-hmm. I will disagree with Andrew on the notion that he's only saying, take me on trust. He's basically saying, anybody with access to the same information as I have had will come to the same conclusion. Opposition leaders, opposition MPs, come and read it. But I'm not sure that it will satisfy the need of the public to say, well, the perspective matters. And your perspective maybe is not the one that we trust most.
Andrew?
Okay, now watch what Andrew does. Okay, Because the point he made before Althea spoke was that it was just trust me. This has now been debunked. Now watch what he does.
The best part of the report is the invitation to NS-SICOP, the Committee of Parliamentarians, or the opposition leaders, if they're willing to be sworn up to secrecy, to test and look at his recommendations. The question is, what do they do if they find fault with it? How do they make their case to the public that he's got it wrong if they can't reveal any of the information? So we're kind of in a circular loop here. The Prime Minister, as I've said many times, could disclose all the answers to these questions, could come out in public in a press conference and answer all the questions, or he could answer the questions in a public inquiry. But in each case, he'd have somebody actually probing his answers and comparing them against other things on the record, et cetera, to see whether they stood up. Whereas in this case, he's basically sort of, Father Confessor David Johnston has taken his word for it and basically transcribed it and repeated it back to us. And we're all, again, supposed to take it on faith.
Oh.
So he takes the thing about inviting the three leaders, integrates it, but ends up at the exact same thing. He's asking us to take it on faith. No matter what's said, he always ends up at the same damn. He twists it and torques it to get to the same point, while, of course, doing that little smear, Father Confessor David Johnston. Now, of course, in this report, nobody was sworn in and under oath. So, yes, somebody's been at the point where they could just turn around and say, I like cheese. And But it seems that a man of David Johnston's caliber and quality would realize that if somebody was doing that, well, then would probably recommend another step, I would assume, if he was feeling that he was not getting full cooperation. We would assume. And then Althea comes in and finishes it off. Mr. Grizzly?
Things. One, I actually do think that an inquiry probably would have access to more information than Mr. Johnston has had. It just, when you start looking, other things tend to pop up, and he doesn't have subpoena powers. So I'm not sure that I agree with that part of his conclusion. But to Andrew's point, the committee of parliamentarians that meets behind closed doors, they do issue public reports. So much like this report, where Mr. Johnston goes through the intelligence with regards to the media leak and says, well, I can sum this up and tell you what I have found a little bit, like in the Arar inquiry, what came out publicly. That committee can do that, and it has done that. The problem in the past, frankly, is that it has done really good reports, and the government has ignored them. Well, basically ignored them until last March.
So again, he got sandwiched. Right? He's really trying like this, and you notice, like, he's just like. That
because he's dealing with two women who are much smarter than he.
Like this, and they're actually saying what they think, and he's spouting a line and twisting and twerking everything to get there. I do not know what's happened to this man. And all this time that he's doing this, all this time that he has been doing this, not once from his lips has it come that he's related to one of the members of the Trudeau Foundation.
Seems to conveniently leave that out.
He keeps on talking about everybody else's conflicts, but will not disclose his own. And the Globe and Mail keeps on publishing them, even though, with no disclaimers, even though they all know what his conflict is. This man is dishonest.
Clearly.
This man is very intellectually dishonest. I used to have some respect for him. I'm really, really losing it on this file.
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious as to why. The man just he
is demanding of others that which he won't give himself.
Wow. Yeah.
He's got one bar for the behavior of the Prime Minister and a whole other one for his own. You're not commenting from a position of strength here. You're not commenting. So there's been lots of fair comments about the limitations of Mr. Johnston's process at the moment. And yes, it could be clearer, but as many kids have mentioned on the chat, what stops them from just slagging whoever the new person would be? Because the comment was, David Johnston said, well, we're not going to do this type of thing, but we're going to do this type of thing. And it just turns out, well, I'm the right guy for it. It's like, why didn't, and I can understand that optically. But again, who else has the top security clearance because, I mean, he was the representative of the head of state, so he kind of has it. Has the respect, has the reputation, has done this type of work many times before. And as Mr. Johnston said, I've done this type of work like 2 to 3 dozen times before, and no one's ever questioned my integrity until now.
Yeah.
And they're all questioning based on optics. And I understand there's optics. There always is optics. But we're also talking about a man that has done this 2 to 3 dozen times. You would think that the weight of all of that, it's like, no, he made this one decision once in his life, and now his reputation is entirely in tatters. And why would he do that?
Well, and here's
That's the narrative.
thing. Of course, that's the narrative. But here's the thing. It's like they're making a Mount Everest out of a microscopic speck of dust. It's one thing that they're trying to blow up and say it's this terrible thing and it's destroyed his reputation that it took him his entire life to build. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He accepted a position. It's not like he was out burning a cross on my front lawn. It's not even, they're trying to make it out to be like that. And it's not. It's not even close. It's not even in the realm. It's not in the galaxy, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And I'd like to show another one, Mr. Grizzly. This is PP, not when he was making his stupid comment at his official press thing, which everybody has seen on the web. But he actually went out and did a media interview yesterday, with an actual media. But he went to the friendliest media that he's got, which is CP.
Yeah.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says that he is not buying the Special Rapporteur's report into allegations of foreign interference. Now, this comes after David Johnston announced that he does not think a public inquiry is needed into alleged foreign meddling in the past 2 federal elections. Johnston based his conclusion on intelligence information that the federal opposition leader was not cleared to view. Pierre Poilievre is in Toronto today, and he joins us now. Welcome to CP24.
Thanks for having me.
I want to ask your opinion on this, Mr. Poilievre. Will you take the Prime Minister up on his offer to obtain the heightened security clearance if you can see classified information into this yourself?
So I'm not going to be muzzled. And what I think Trudeau is trying to do here is put a bunch of paper in front of me that has information that's already public, mark it secret, and then say, you can't speak about this anymore because now you've seen classified material. It's a crafty way to silence critics. We already have 2 conservatives that are cleared to look at these documents and to scrutinize what the Prime Minister proposes to put in front of me. I think that is the right way to go. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be silenced. What we actually need is a full public inquiry with a former judge who's skilled at dealing with national security issues to look into the allegations, to see why Beijing interfered in 2 successive elections to help Trudeau win. Why did Beijing give $140,000 to the Trudeau Foundation in order to influence the Prime Minister? These are questions to which we need real answers, and only a public inquiry will deliver those answers.
And you've made it very clear your stance on your opinion on the relationship between Mr. Johnston.
You got to stop it because the music there was still going.
When you look at your ministers, what about them possibly taking a look at the report?
Well, members of my caucus are going to be able to look at it. They are on the committee, the National Security Committee, so they will be looking at it.
How do you see a Poilievre government handling international meddling and interference when it comes to if you were the leader?
Well, first of all, we need a full public inquiry into the past meddling that will come up with recommendations to prevent it from happening again. We can't have politicians and governments that are compromised and serving the interest of foreign dictatorships. I want a foreign agent registry, a foreign influence registry, which would require anyone who's paid by a foreign government to manipulate Canadian politics to register and have their name posted online. If you're the food bank, you'd have to register. Your name would be online. We'd all know that you were lobbying for the food bank.
Sure.
But if you're lobbying for a foreign dictatorship, you can do it in secret. I think you should have to register for that.
Okay. Now, there's so much bullcrap in all of those answers. Okay. Okay. And number one, for some reason, throughout this entire interview, I do not know why, Mr. Grizzly, but for some reason, I can't get over his hands.
Mm-hmm.
You put it up? They're always like spread out right on, like it's like he's braced, like something. That's weird.
It's
That is a
anxiety.
weird thing to be doing with your hands.
It's anxiety.
It's
That's
really
how he's
weird.
coping.
That's how he's coping, because he's lying through his teeth here.
Yes. This whole let's just back it up for a sec. This whole donation to the Trudeau Foundation to influence. It's a foundation named after his father that he has nothing to do with, and it's a scholarship program for PhD students.
But he says that the money came from Beijing, it came from two businessmen, but did they get their $140,000 from the PRC to do that? Has that been established yet?
No, and again, he doesn't say the word China. It's always Beijing. He never says China.
But all the donations that the Trudeau Foundation has received since its existence, 140,000 that came from these two, makes it Beijing funded?
Yeah. Well, and really, who was it yesterday who pointed out that $140,000 could not buy you an African dictator? Like 140 grand, that's not buying goddamn influence over anybody in that position of prime minister. It isn't. It's not.
It's not. It's nowhere near enough. And I mean, and if they tried to buy the influence, well, it didn't really work because we kept on Menwaju.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that not only did we do that, but remember when he confronted Prime Minister Xi and the conservatives lost their shit over the fact that he confronted him and said, no, that's not how we do things in Canada. We believe in open and honest democracy. Rage farming shit given.
Now, you will notice that the journalist in question here, simply asked him a question, let him answer, and then moved on to the next one.
Yeah, no follow-up, no.
And the entire 9 minutes is like that. She asked those two questions of the rapporteur for 2 minutes and 44 seconds of a 9-minute and 46 interview, and then she went on to housing and drugs and whatnot like this. She just let him say his piece and then moved on. Didn't challenge any of those statements.
No rebuttal, no nothing.
No rebuttal, nothing. Just accepted them as true. Did not commit journalism.
No.
Refused to commit journalism.
It's pathetic.
And that's why he goes there.
Of course. Of course. Again, he's not been questioned as to the manner in which he continues to, he just keeps hammering it home. $140,000, Beijing, ski buddy, cottage friend. He just keeps spinning the same yarn over and over and over and over again, hoping that people will believe the lie.
Yep. And in this answer, he talks about the two CPCM members, but says nothing else. We have two, so we have access, and that's the way it should be. Okay, I'm the journalist. What have they told you about what they've seen so far?
Yeah.
Right? Painfully obvious follow-up question. Right there, he handed her, put it on the platter by talking about the two CPC MPs.
Well, and
have they been telling you that the information, David Johnston said none of the information. You seem to believe the public require is still required. On what basis do you think that? Was it your two MPs on the NSICOP committee that relayed to you some information that Mr. Johnson may not be interpreting this information correctly or honestly? That would be a question, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Nobody's doing their job here. Nobody's doing their job.
Well, his whole statement of course I'm not going to view it because then he could make me view whatever he wants and then stamp it top secret and then I can't talk about it. That's not how it fucking works.
It's not how it works.
And he knows it, but he can rage farm off that.
Well, now he's got a different problem. Because Blanchette of the Bloc Québécois has also said that he does not want to see the information. But Mr. Singh has. And Mr. Singh will. So now you got the Conservatives on the same side as the Bloc. Gee, I remember the last time when the NDP and the Liberals wanted to do something with the Bloc. I think they signed this agreement, a supply and confidence, similar type agreement that would have resulted in the Harper government facing a confidence vote. And they were saying, oh my God, how could you be working with the Bloc? You're selling.
If it suits my needs, I'll work with you.
Yeah, but it would seem to be that having the exact same position as the Bloc Québécois on an issue of national security if the Liberals were as unscrupulous and dishonest as the Conservatives are, you can raise a lot of money off that, could you?
Think? Oh, yeah. If they decided to go dirty like that, yeah. If they
PP overplayed
decided
his
let's
hand.
go low, yeah.
PP has overplayed his hand by refusing to meet with David Johnston.
Yeah.
That's the story.
Yeah.
That's going to be the story now.
Well, we're going to damn well make it the story.
Yes, we are. All right, kits. That's we have a show, don't we, Mr. Grizzly?
Yes, we do, because I have to go. But let's just we need a few seconds of this because it would be remiss of us not to share this.
Yeah. I do not know what the talking is overlaying. There's nothing playing on my end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was a video of Tina Turner, the late Tina Turner, who passed away yesterday at the age of 83, live from Arnhem, Netherlands, back in 2009, playing probably, well, it's in my top revolving top 5 of favorite Tina Turner songs. Simply the best,
yes,
because it's just a joyful song, and she was the queen of rock and roll. Period. Queen of rock and roll.
Period. I have nothing to say. Just everybody's calling her the queen. It's like, as soon as I heard it, I was thinking of her song, what I think one of the first songs on her Private Dancer album, like Might Have Been Queen, Full Survivor.
Yeah,
just love that song. Tina, lots of joy you brought me. Thanks so much. Yeah. All right, Mr. Grizzly. That's the end of. Yep, that's the end of this episode of the True North Eager Beaver podcast. We hope that you enjoyed listening to us, because we enjoyed making this for you. And yes, even though I am very visibly frustrated today, kids, it's because the show that I had planned for you with all the information did not go down the way I wanted. I still enjoy showing up and talking to you every day. So please pardon my crisp face today. Oh man, I just want whatever planet that's passing through my anus right now to just keep going. Is that Mercury goes going through Uranus? I was going through my anus.
Uranus.
Yes, I know you say Uranus. I know it's Uranus, but it's not as funny when you pronounce it properly.
True. Uranus fudge factory. The best fudge comes from Uranus.
As we say in French, c'est quelque chose qui me passe de travers dans le... Anyway, I've got something stuck in my craw. Let's put it that way. Well, remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please let your peeps know about us, because democracy is something that you do. Please write your MPs, your senators, your media outlets, letting them know that you demand better and that you want them to actually commit some journalism now and then. That would be really nice. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on the Crier Media Network, as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are appreciated, and also appreciated today was all the kind comments from the kits in the chat when I was being frustrated. Also, so hello, Kit Elaine, Kit Ellen, Kit Christian, Kit Linda M, and Kit Milkman. Thank you so much for the encouragement. I saw it, and it did help. We'd love to hear from you. Please reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, Twitter at True Eager, or by email truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And you can subscribe via our pod page, podpage.com, the True North Eager Beaver. And we'll come to you when we have something fresh off the bandwidth. And if you would subscribe to our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel, that would be great. Thank you so much. we can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you're watching, you can bring your cell phone to that squiggly thing that Mr. Grizzly's going to make appear right about now. Boom. There you go. And that will bring you to our emergency hot chocolate and coffee fund. And if you're listening, then you go to our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. And that's where you can make your donation. And we thank you. Every cent goes back into the show. So we very much appreciate it. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until the next time, dear kids, it can be a tough world, sometimes a frustrating one out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. I could probably have taken a page from that for myself this morning. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us before we go?
Not words of wisdom, but kind of, holy crap.
Yeah.
This from Stockwell Day. Justin Trudeau is right. Sorry, it can't be a public inquiry. That is a disaster for a nation's intel service.
Right.
My time at CSIS showed me they are okay, but this must be an internal inquiry with sworn MPs who then report publicly.
Thank you for being a statesman, sir. Was it that hard? Pierre, there.
No.
Was it that hard? It's not that hard. Roll the credits, sir.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
All right, kids. Have a beaverific. See, I can't even get the ending out. Oh, God, it's been a day already. Have a beaverific day.
It's been a day and it's only 8 a.m.
I've had more crap happen to me today than the army probably has.
Well, I've only had 1 cup of coffee, so that gives you an idea how my day's begun.
Have a better day than I'm having, kids, please.